I've lived 78 years on this earth, and I thought I'd seen everything. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for the moment I realized my own children had left me to freeze on the porch while they toasted champagne by the fire. My name is Margaret Hayes. Most people call me Maggie. And this is the story of the Christmas that changed everything. The night air cut through my thin sweater like knives. 31 degrees, the weatherman had said that morning. Cold enough to make your bones ache. Cold enough to make your hands shake no matter how hard. You tried to keep them still. I sat on that porch in my house. Slippers. The fuzzy ones my granddaughter Annie gave me last year. Watching my breath turn to pale. Ribbons in the darkness. Through the window. Just 15 feet away. I could see them. My son David, broad-shouldered and confident, raising his glass. My daughter Linda, her hair styled perfectly for the holiday, laughing at something someone said. My other son, Marcus, always the comedian, mid-story with everyone hanging on his words. The fire crackled in the hearth. The Christmas tree twinkled with lights I'd helped put up just days before. Champagne flowed like water. And I sat outside, in the cold, alone. If you're watching this, leave a comment telling me where you're from. Hit that like button if you've ever felt invisible to the people who should love you most. And subscribe, because what happened next, when my granddaughter arrived, nobody saw coming. Let me take you back to show you how I got here. 3 years ago, I made a decision that I thought would bring me closer to my family. I sold my little house, the one I'd lived in for 40 years after my husband passed, and I moved in with my son David and his wife Patricia. "Mom, you shouldn't be living alone," David had said, his voice full of concern. "What if something happens? What if you fall? Come live with us. We have the space." It sounded perfect. A warm home filled with family. Holidays together. Growing old surrounded by the people I loved. What I didn't know then was that I wasn't moving in as family. I was moving in as a burden they could profit from. You see, my granddaughter Annie, David's daughter, she's a police lieutenant. Strong, smart, with a heart bigger than the sky. She worried about me being alone too. So she started sending money. Every month like clockwork. Money for my care, for my medications, for my food, to make sure I was comfortable and safe. "Grandma," she'd tell me over the phone, "I want you taken care of. You deserve it. You raised Dad. You were always there for us. Now let me be there for you." Her words made my heart full. I cried after those calls. Not from sadness, but from feeling loved. What I didn't know was that none of that money ever reached me. Not a single dollar. David and Patricia. They took it all. Every transfer Annie made in my name went straight into their pockets, and they spent it on themselves. New kitchen cabinets. Granite countertops that cost more than my entire old house. A vacation to the Caribbean last summer. Marcus got help with his down payment on a beach condo. Linda got that designer purse she'd been eyeing. And me? I wore the same sweaters I'd owned for 10 years. I ate whatever leftovers they'd leave in the fridge. I took my medications only when they remembered to pick up my prescriptions. I became invisible. Not just forgotten, erased. They'd have their parties, their family gatherings, their celebrations, and I'd sit in my small room upstairs or out on the porch when they needed me out of the way. "Mom needs air," Patricia would say with that tight smile of hers. "She likes the porch." I never argued, because I thought, foolishly, desperately, that if I stayed quiet, stayed useful, stayed out of the way, they'd still love me. But love doesn't ask you to freeze in the cold. Love doesn't pocket money meant for your care. Love doesn't erase you from family photos and forget to hang your stocking on the mantle. That's what hurt the most. The stocking. Every Christmas since David was born, I'd hung stockings for my children. I'd filled them with little treats, with love notes, with reminders that they were cherished. This year, when I walked into the living room on Christmas Eve morning, I saw them hanging there. David, Patricia, Marcus, Linda, but not mine. There was no stocking for Maggie. I stood there for a long time staring at that mantle, feeling something crack inside my chest. That's when I knew the truth I'd been avoiding for 3 years. I wasn't family to them anymore. I was just in the way. The day started like any other holiday in that house. Busy, loud, and without a single thought for me. Patricia was in the kitchen barking orders about the turkey. David was on the phone with clients, because even on Christmas Eve, business came first. Marcus arrived around noon with a bottle of expensive wine, and that charming smile that always got him whatever he wanted. Linda showed up fashionably late, as always with shopping bags full of gifts. Nobody asked if I needed anything. Nobody checked if I'd eaten lunch. Nobody noticed when I quietly took my medications with tap water because they'd forgotten to buy my juice. By evening, the house was transformed. Candles flickered on every surface. The smell of roasted turkey and fresh bread filled the air. Christmas music played softly in the background. It looked like something out of a magazine, but I wasn't in the picture. "Mom," Patricia said around 6 o'clock, her voice tight with that false brightness she always used. "Why don't you get some fresh air on the porch? You've been inside all day. It was 31 degrees outside. I knew it. She knew it. But I nodded anyway, because that's what I always did. I pulled my thin cardigan tighter around my shoulders. The thick coat Annie had sent me last winter had mysteriously gone missing, and I shuffled out to the porch in my house. Slippers. The door clicked shut behind me, and I heard it. That soft final sound. The lock. They'd lock me out. Not on purpose, I told myself. Just an accident. They'd open it soon, any minute now. I sat in the old wicker chair, the one with the cushion that had lost its stuffing years ago, and I waited. Inside I could hear them laughing. Glasses clinking, the warmth of the fire crackling. I wrapped my arms around myself and tried not to shiver. Minutes passed, then an hour. My fingers started to go numb. My lips felt strange. Too cold, too stiff. I couldn't stop my teeth from chattering no matter how hard I clenched my jaw. Through the window, I watched them. David poured more champagne. Patricia straightened Marcus's collar like he was still a little boy. Linda leaned in close, her face bright with laughter. Nobody looked toward the window. Nobody wondered where I was. Nobody cared. That's when I felt something I'd never felt before in my 78 years. Not anger, not even sadness, just emptiness, like I'd disappeared completely, and nobody had noticed. I don't know how long I sat there. Time felt strange when you're that cold. Your thoughts slow down. Your body starts to feel heavy. I remember thinking about my husband, James. How he'd always made sure I was warm in winter. How he'd wrap his coat around me if I so much as shivered. I wondered what he'd think if he could see me now. Sitting on a porch, in the freezing cold while our children drank champagne 15 feet away. I closed my eyes, and that's when I heard it. Footsteps. Fast and urgent. Then a voice I'd know anywhere. "Grandma, Annie." I looked up and there she was. My Annie. Still in her police uniform, badge catching the porch light, her face a mixture of shock and fury I'd never seen before. "Grandma," she whispered, dropping to her knees in front of me. "Oh my God, Grandma." Her hands, warm, so wonderfully warm, touched my face, my arms, checking me like she was assessing an emergency. And I suppose she was. "How long have you been out here?" she asked, her voice shaking. I tried to smile, tried to make it seem like nothing. "Oh, not long, sweetheart. I just wanted some fresh air." But my words came out slurred. My lips weren't working right. Annie's eyes filled with tears. Then they hardened into something else, something fierce and protective. She shrugged out of her police jacket, that heavy, warm thing that smelled like safety, and wrapped it around my shoulders. "You're freezing," she said. and I could hear the anger building in her voice. "You're actually freezing. And they're in there." She looked through the window at her father, at her aunt and uncle, at all of them laughing without a care in the world. I saw something change in her face. "Annie," I tried to say, "don't make trouble. It's Christmas. Don't," she said firmly, gently. "Don't make excuses for them, Grandma. Not anymore." She slid her arms under me. I don't weigh much these days. Nothing but bird bones and loose skin, and lifted me like I was a child. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Taking you somewhere warm," she said. "Somewhere safe." She carried me to the door and tried the handle. Locked. I saw her jaw clench. Then she adjusted her grip on me, set her shoulder, and knocked. 3 hard, measured raps that sounded like judgment itself. Footsteps inside. The deadbolt sliding. The door opened just a crack. And there was Patricia's face. Lipstick perfect. Smile brittle. "Anna," she said. "Nobody calls Annie by her full name except Patricia when she's annoyed. You should have told us you were coming." "I wanted to surprise Grandma," Annie said, her voice deadly calm. Patricia's eyes flicked to me in Annie's arms, to the jacket wrapped around me, and something like guilt flickered across her face before disappearing. "She likes the fresh air," Patricia said. "It's 31 degrees," Annie replied. She wanted move. That single word cut through everything. Patricia stepped back, and David appeared behind her, his face already arranging itself into disapproval. "Anna, what's the meaning of—" Annie didn't answer. She pushed past them, carrying me into the house. The heat hit us like a wall. Wonderful, terrible heat that made my frozen skin burn. I could see them all now. David with his champagne glass, Marcus mid-laugh, Linda with her designer everything, and on the mantel, those 4 stockings. Not 5. Annie saw them too. I felt her body tense. She carried me straight to the living room and gently, so gently, set me down on the couch closest to the fire. Then she stood, turned to face her family, and I saw something in her expression that made my heart both break and soar. My quiet, patient granddaughter wasn't quiet anymore. "How long?" she asked, her voice cutting through the silence. Nobody answered. "How long was she out there?" Patricia smoothed her dress. "Anna, don't be dramatic. Answer me." The command in her voice, the cop voice, made everyone flinch. Marcus tried to laugh it off. "Come on, Annie, she's fine. She wanted some air." "She's hypothermic," Annie said flatly. "Her lips are blue. Her hands won't stop shaking. And you're all in here drinking champagne." The room went silent except for the fire crackling. I wanted to say something, to smooth it over, to make peace, but Annie's hand found mine and squeezed. A silent message. "Let me handle this." So I did. And what happened next changed everything. Annie didn't yell. She didn't scream. That's what made it so powerful. She just stood there, badge glinting in the firelight, and she asked questions, simple questions that unraveled 3 years of lies in minutes. "Dad," she said, looking at David. "I've been sending money for Grandma's care for 3 years. Where did it go?" David's face went red. "That's none of your business." "It's absolutely my business. I sent it. For her." Annie gestured to me. "So where did it go?" Silence. "The new kitchen?" Annie continued, her voice steady. "The vacation to the Caribbean? Marcus's down payment? Linda's shopping trips?" Patricia gasped. "How did you—" "I'm a cop," Annie said simply. "I notice things. And I started noticing that Grandma looked thinner every time I called. That her clothes never changed. That her medications weren't always filled." She turned to me, her eyes soft. "I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner, Grandma." "It's okay, sweetheart. It's not okay," she said firmly. Then back to her family. "None of this is okay." Marcus tried to recover. "Look, we've been taking care of her. She has a roof over her head. She was locked out on the porch, In freezing temperatures. Annie interrupted. That's not care. That's neglect. The word hung in the air like smoke. Linda started crying. We didn't mean... Intent doesn't matter, Annie said. Impact does. And the impact is that my grandmother, your mother-in-law, was freezing while you celebrated. David set down his glass, trying to regain control. You're overreacting. This is family business. This became police business the moment you endangered her life. The room went cold. What are you saying? Patricia whispered. Annie's expression didn't change. I'm saying that what I witnessed tonight constitutes elder abuse, neglect of a vulnerable adult, financial exploitation, all of which are criminal offenses. I watched my children's faces drain of color. You wouldn't, David said. Wouldn't I? Annie's voice was ice. I took an oath to protect people who can't protect themselves. That includes her. She looked down at me, and her expression softened just for a moment. Grandma deserves better than this. She deserves warmth and dignity and love. And if you can't give her that, then you don't deserve her at all. Marcus stood up, trying to sound confident. You can't just take her? Watch me. Annie helped me to my feet, keeping the jacket wrapped around me. Where are we going? I asked quietly. Somewhere safe, she said. Somewhere you'll be valued. As we moved toward the door, David's voice rang out. If you walk out that door with her, you're not welcome back. You understand that? Annie paused, looked back at him. I stopped being welcome here the moment you left her to freeze. She opened the door and Winter rushed in. Behind us, I heard Patricia sob, Marcus swear, Linda's broken apology dying in her throat. But Annie didn't look back. She carried me out into the night. And for the first time in 3 years, I felt something I hadn't felt in that house. Safe. The police station smelled of burnt coffee and pine air freshener. Christmas lights had been strung across the front desk, and someone had put a small tree in the corner with handmade ornaments. Officers looked up as Annie carried me in, their expressions shifting from curiosity to concern to something like anger when they saw the state I was in. LT? A young officer approached. Everything okay? No, Daniels, Annie said quietly. Everything is not okay. She carried me to a break room and gently set me in a chair, then wrapped a blanket around my shoulders. A thick, warm one that smelled like detergent and kindness. Another officer, Ruiz, I think his name was, brought me hot cocoa with little marshmallows floating on top. For you, ma'am, he said with a gentle smile. I looked at that cup, at the steam rising, at the care in this stranger's eyes, and something broke inside me. I started to cry. Not the quiet tears I'd learned to hide, real gasping sobs that shook my whole body. Annie knelt beside me immediately. Grandma, I'm sorry, I managed. I'm so sorry. You have nothing to be sorry for, she said fiercely. Nothing. Do you hear me? But I did. I felt sorry for being a burden, for causing trouble, for making Annie choose between me and her family. They're going to hate you, I whispered, because of me. Let them, Annie said simply. I'd rather have them hate me than watch them hurt you. Officer Daniels appeared in the doorway. LT, you want me to file a report? Annie looked at me, really looked at me. That's up to Grandma, she said softly. All eyes turned to me. I thought about my children, about the years I'd spent raising them, loving them, sacrificing for them, about the grandchildren I'd helped raise, about the family I'd tried so hard to keep together. And I thought about sitting on that porch, freezing, while they laughed. Yes, I said quietly. File the report. Annie squeezed my hand. Are you sure? I nodded. I'm sure. Because I'd finally realized something. Protecting them from consequences wasn't love. It was enabling them to hurt me more. The next few hours blurred together. Officers came and went. asking gentle questions, taking photos of my thin clothing, documenting the cold I'd been left in. I told them everything, not just about that night, but about the past 3 years, the money that never reached me, the medications that were forgotten, the times I'd been left alone for days while they vacationed. Each revelation brought tighter expressions to the officers' faces. "Ma'am," Ruiz said at one point, his voice thick with emotion, "you didn't deserve any of that." I nodded, because I was finally starting to believe it. Around midnight, Annie's phone rang. She looked at the screen, then at me. "It's Dad," she said. "Answer it," I told her. She put it on speaker. David's voice came through, tight with panic. "Anna, we need to talk. You can't just file a report against your own family." "I can," Annie said calmly, and I did. "Do you have any idea what this will do to us? To our reputation? Do you have any idea what you did to her?" Annie shot back. Silence on the line. Then Patricia's voice, shrill. "We're her children. We have rights. You have responsibilities," Annie corrected. "Which you failed. Spectacularly. Please." Linda's voice now tearful. "Can't we work this out?" "That was your chance," Annie said. "Every day for 3 years. Every time you pocketed money meant for her care. Every time you left her alone. Every single chance to do the right thing. And you didn't." "Anna," she hung up. Then she turned to me, her eyes red but determined. "You're not going back there, Grandma. Not ever? Where will I go?" I asked. "With me," she said simply. "My apartment isn't fancy, but it's warm. And you'll have your own room. And I'll be there." Tears filled my eyes again. "You don't have to. I want to," she said firmly. "You spent your whole life taking care of everyone else. Now it's someone else's turn to take care of you." Over the next few days, the investigation moved forward. Adult Protective Services got involved. They interviewed me, reviewed Annie's financial record showing the money she'd sent, and visited David's house. What they found confirmed everything. Bank statements showing large deposits from Annie, followed by immediate transfers to personal accounts. Receipts for luxury purchases made within days of each deposit. Photos on social media showing vacations and expensive dinners, all funded by money, meant for my care. The evidence was damning. Meanwhile, I stayed with Annie. Her apartment was small, just one bedroom that she insisted I take while she slept on the couch. But it was warm, so wonderfully warm. She bought me new clothes, made sure my medications were filled, cooked meals that I actually got to eat at a table, not alone in a room. And she talked to me, really talked, asked about my day, my feelings, my past. For the first time in 3 years, I felt like a person again. Not a burden, not an inconvenience, just Maggie. My children called repeatedly. Angry calls, pleading calls, calls where they tried to guilt me into dropping the charges. "You're tearing this family apart," David said during one call. "No," I replied, my voice stronger than it had been in years. "You tore it apart. I'm just refusing to be torn apart with it." He hung up. Linda tried a different approach. "Mom, we love you. We made mistakes, but we can fix this." "Love doesn't leave someone to freeze," I said quietly. "Love doesn't steal. Love doesn't forget." She started crying, but I didn't back down. For the first time in my life, I was choosing myself. 6 weeks later, we sat in a courtroom. David, Patricia, Marcus, and Linda on one side, Annie and me on the other. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, reviewed the evidence with an expression that grew darker with each page. Finally, she looked up. "I've seen many cases of elder abuse in my career," she said, "but rarely have I seen such calculated exploitation of a vulnerable family member." David started to speak, but she held up her hand. "You took money specifically designated for your mother's care and used it for personal luxury. You left her in dangerous conditions. You isolated her, neglected her medical needs, and treated her as an inconvenience rather than a human being deserving of dignity. Her eyes swept across my children. This court finds sufficient evidence of financial exploitation and neglect. You are hereby ordered to repay every dollar sent from Mrs. Hayes's care, with interest. Additionally, you are barred from any contact with her unless she explicitly consents. Patricia gasped. Marcus swore under his breath. Linda sobbed openly. David just sat there, his face pale. The judge turned to me, her expression softening. Mrs. Hayes, I'm sorry you had to endure this, but I'm glad you found the courage to speak up. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. As we left the courtroom, David tried to approach me. Mom. Annie stepped between us. The judge said no contact. Please, he said. And for the first time, I saw actual remorse in his eyes. I'm sorry. We're all sorry. I looked at him. This man I'd raised, who'd once been a sweet little boy who held my hand crossing the street, I forgive you, I said quietly. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean going back. His face crumpled. I walked past him, holding Annie's arm, and I didn't look back. That was 8 months ago. Now, I sit in Annie's apartment, our apartment, watching the snow fall outside while soup simmers on the stove. I have my own room with a bed that's actually comfortable. My medications are organized in a weekly pill box that Annie fills every Sunday. My clothes are warm and fit properly. But more than that, I have something I didn't have before. I have my voice back. I've started volunteering at a senior center, sharing my story with others who feel invisible. I've helped 3 other elderly people recognize abuse in their own families and find the courage to speak up. I've learned that my worth isn't determined by how useful I am to others. My worth is inherent. Just because I exist, Annie and I have dinner together every night. We watch movies. We talk about everything and nothing. She introduces me to her friends from the station, who've become like family. Real family. The chosen kind. As for my children, they paid back every cent. The money sits in an account that's solely in my name now, managed by a third-party trustee to ensure it's actually used for my care. They send letters sometimes, apologizing, asking for a chance to make things right. I read them. Sometimes I even reply with a few lines. But I haven't seen them in person. And I'm not sure I ever will. Some bridges once burned can't be rebuilt. And that's okay, because I've learned something important in my 79 years. Family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up when you're freezing on the porch. It's about who wraps you in warmth when everyone else looks away. Annie saved my life that Christmas Eve. Not just from the cold, but from the slow erasure of believing I didn't matter. She reminded me that I do matter, that my comfort matters, my dignity matters, my life matters, and if my own children couldn't see that, then maybe they never really saw me at all. If you're watching this and you see yourself in my story, if you're the one being overlooked, taken for granted or pushed aside, I need you to hear this. You matter. Your comfort matters. Your needs matter. Your dignity matters. And if the people around you can't see that, it's not because you're not enough, it's because they've stopped looking. Don't make yourself smaller to fit into spaces that don't value you. Don't stay quiet to keep the peace when that peace comes. At the cost of your well-being, speak up. Reach out. Find your Annie. That person who will see you, who will fight for you, who will carry you out of the cold. And if you're the Annie in someone's story, if you see someone being overlooked or mistreated, don't look away. Speak up. Step in. Be the warmth they desperately need. Because sometimes the most important thing we can do is simply refuse to let someone freeze. That Christmas Eve, I learned that it's never too late to choose yourself. Never too late to say, enough. Never too late to walk away. From people who treat you like you're invisible and Never too late to find real love, the kind that keeps you warm, even on the coldest nights. This year, Christmas will be different. Annie and I are hosting dinner at our apartment. Just us and a few of her friends from the station. Officer Daniels, Ruiz, and a couple others who've become like grandchildren to me. I'm making my famous apple pie. Annie's handling the turkey with help from YouTube tutorials that make us both laugh. There will be stockings on the mantel. 2 of them, side by side. Maggie, Annie. And this time, I won't be outside in the cold. I'll be exactly where I belong. Warm, safe, seen, home. What's your experience with family members who took you for granted? Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and protecting yourself? Let me know in the comments below. Share your story. You might help someone else find the courage to step out of the cold. If this story touched you, please hit that like button and subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to know they matter. Remember, you deserve warmth. You deserve dignity. You deserve to be seen. And if the people around you can't give you that, it's okay to find people who will. Thank you for listening to my story. Until next time, stay warm, stay safe, and never let anyone make you feel invisible. You matter. Always.